Hello, everybody. My name is Richard Morton. I'm a teacher at College DuPage in the continuing education department. I am. This video is a supplement to the lesson that I teach in class on the 3D modeling from a one-line diagram. The one-line diagram is one that I made in Photoshop. Um, if you want more information on that, feel free to shoot me an email, and I'll try to help you out with that. So yeah, one of the benefits to doing video here is that you can stop it, you can rewind it, you can pause whenever you need to, and also we have this handy dandy on-screen keyboard. Okay, down here at the bottom left-hand corner. Now, hopefully it doesn't get in the way, but if it does, I can move it around. Okay. So yeah, I'm just starting off on a brand new project. If you start off Maya right in here, you can just click on new up here, get right into it. First thing we need to do is we need to create a project folder. So to do that, we're going to go up here to file and then come down to project window. Okay. After we make the project folder and we're reopening the project later, you can click on the set project to pick out your project folder. But to create it for the first time, we have to click on project window here. And then from here, we can click on new in the upper corner. Let me get my Grammarly thing out of the way here. This thing's always in my way. Can I just make it go away? No. So sorry about that. But we'll click on new up here in the upper right corner. And then over here, we'll name our folder. You can name your folder whatever you want. I'm going to name it tutorial videos. And this is the folder that I'll use for the remaining time when I'm making these videos up. Okay. So we got that in there. Now we got to say where we want to save it to. So let me do that. Let me get to where I want to save it. Go into my drive here, into my teacher drive, into the 3D modeling folder. There we go. And yep, we just have to select which folder we want our project folder to save into. So I'm going to save it right into this one and click on select. So now it's all ready to go. It's got a file path to save to, and now we can come down here and click on accept. Boom, our project is set. Okay, next thing we should do is save the file right away before we start doing any work. This is to ensure that the autosave feature starts working right away. So that way, if Maya crashes on us, which is common for Maya, then we can get back into the work that we were doing before. But yeah, so we're going to come up here, go to File, Save Scene As, and we're going to call this Food Marker Project. Okay, and then we'll click on Save As, and now we're ready to go. Next, we got to bring in our reference, which is the one-line diagram. So to bring in our reference, we're going to first create a piece of poly. So up here on the shelves, I'm going to click on the poly modeling shelf. Then I'm going to choose a plane because I just need to show the picture. So I'm just going to do a plane. And as you can see too, my plane is on its side. That's because I oriented it my viewport so that the z-axis is up, which is good for 3D modeling because in 3D modeling, or for 3D printing, I should say, in 3D printing, on the 3D printer, Z is always the up axis. So in order to make it easier to get into the slicing program, and I have to waste time rotating it, I'll be modeling straight from here. Okay, so that's the only difference that you're going to kind of see in this project. If you need to, you can switch yours to Z being up by going into settings and preferences and going to general, I believe it is, and then you'll be able to see like which one will be up axis. Actually, let me just show you where that is real quick. Why not, right? So up here in Windows, we're going to come down to settings preferences. Then we're going to go into our preferences. Then from here, actually, it's settings right there. This guy right there. And you can see you can change it from Z is the up or Y is the up. By default, Y is the up if you are opening up Maya for the first time. So that's where you can go to change that if you want to make yours look exactly like mine for this project. Make it a little bit easier on yourself. Next thing we need to do is we need to get rid of all these subdivisions because we don't need it for a reference image. We just need one face in here. So over here in the channel box on the right hand side, you'll see that there's some words down here. Under inputs, we've got polyplane 1. If we click on that, we'll get the attributes for this piece of poly. Now, you only want to mess with this after you first create the poly. If you start doing things like changing sizes or moving faces or vertex around, and then you try changing this information after the fact, your model's going to freak out. It's not going to it's going to look weird and it's going to get all crazy. All right, so do this right at the very beginning. So we're going to come in here under subdivisions width and height. We're going to make those go down to 1. I'm just clicking and holding my mouse in the number field and then dragging to the right or left. Basically, these are sliders if you hold your mouse down on them. Okay, so now we got a single plane. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a material to put these guys in. But before that, let me see. I'm going to pause my recording and I'm going to put the source images, or I'm going to take the images that I created in Photoshop and I'm going to put them in the source images folder for my project folder. Okay. So let me go ahead and do that real quickly. Also for you, that should be with the assignment that you got in class. If you don't have it, just shoot me an email, mortonr5@cod.edu, and I'll send you the image that you can use just as long as you put it into the source images folder for that project folder we just created. So let me just pause and get that done real quick. All right, I'm back. So I'm actually left it in its PSD form, which I believe you can do, but you'll get the JPEG version of this. The PSD version is just the actual Photoshop file. So yours will look a little bit different from mine in here. I'm just doing it for time's sake, just to get it going. So our next step now is to create a material. And then once we create the material, we can attach the texture to the material. You got to think of the material as the skin of your poly. Okay, so let's go ahead and create that. So we're going to hold on our right mouse button and drag down to assign new material, and then we're going to choose new material. So yeah, it kind of goes off the screen there a little bit, so you can't see it. Let me try readjusting that real quick here. There we go. That's much better. And then I'll come down to the third one from the bottom, which is assign new material. And then I'll choose the very bottom one here, new material. So it's going to be holding the right click and dragging down to assign new material and then new material. Once you select that, then you can come in here and we're going to choose a Lambert. The common textures that you're going to use materials that you'll use is Blinn, Lambert, Fawn, and Fawn E. Okay, the rest of these you can pretty much ignore. These are like for advanced type stuff. Oh, we do have a new one, actually. We have a fifth one, which is the standard surface. This is something new that Maya created a couple of years ago that you can use as a material. I mean, it's actually the default material anytime you make a new piece of poly. But yeah, we're going to choose Lambert here. So we'll click on Lambert. Then over here in the attribute editor, remember we can switch between our channel box and our attribute editor all the way over on the right over here with the tabs. Once we create a material, it automatically opens up our attribute editor. Up here, we're going to name our material. Okay, so we'll call this M for material underscore ref for reference. Okay, then you want to either hit tab or enter to complete the process. We want this tab up here that says Lambert 2 to read this before we do anything else, or else it's going to mess up the material. It's not going to actually hook the texture up to the material at that point. All right, so we'll hit enter now. Boom. Now you can see the tab has changed the name to M underscore ref. Now the next step we're going to do is we're going to come over here to where it says color, and we're going to click on the checkered box just to the right of the color attribute. Okay, this will bring up our create render node. All right, and from here we're going to choose file. Again, you can ignore all the rest of these. These are simulations for animators that are much more advanced. Me as I went to my major was video game art and design, so everything I made would go into a game engine. So really none of this stuff here would really help at all. Although I might have to do this PSD file one instead. But we'll try file and see what we can do. So click on file. Next thing over here where it says image name, because now we're in the texture node, okay, in the attribute editor. And over here where it says image name, we can click on the folder to the right of that. And then boom, there's my food marker. Again, yours will say .jpeg instead of PSD, okay? And then I'll click on open, and oh, where is it? Why can't we see it? Well, that's because the viewport, we got to change our viewport mode from just plain shaded to shaded with textures. So to do that, all you simply have to do is hit the 6 key on your keyboard, and boom, now we've got it. Now the next step is we got to get this to be the right size proportionally. Also, we're a little upside down, but that's okay. We'll be able to fix that. So in order to do that, we're going to bring open our File Explorer or Finder window if you're on a Mac. We're going to right click on our image and go down to Properties. And then from here, we'll click on Details. And it should give you the file size. Now I'm using a PSD, so it's not going to give me the actual file size or the pixel size of the image. So let me give a pause and I'll go grab that information. It looks like I might have to open up Photoshop to find that out. So, let me go do that real quick and I'll let you know what those numbers are. All right, so that pixel size for this image is 2048 by 1024. So what we're going to do is we're going to come over here to our channel box, and then we'll click off into an empty area to deselect everything, and then we'll click on our piece of poly again, so that way we can get all of our channels in here in the channel box. We're going to go over here to scale. So we're going to be changing, from my perspective here, I'm going to be changing it from for the X and the Y. If you've got Y is the up axis, then you're going to be changing the X and the Z. Okay, so my Y is going to be the widest one. I'm just going to move over the decimal point on that 2048, a couple of tenths over to 20.48. And then for my scale X here, or actually, sorry, I got this backwards. X is going to be this 2048 right here. So 20.48. And then, yep, there we go. And actually, this is going to be 1. It's going to be the same no matter what, because it's the, I think it's because the local controls, Z is always up, or Y is always up for the piece of poly itself for its local control. So over here, we're going to type in 10.24 and then hit enter. And now we've got it proportionally set. And it's a little bit bigger, which is good to work from. And actually, we'd probably make this way bigger because if we set this to a 3D printer, it'd be really, really tiny. We'd have to upscale it big time. But yeah, let's get this thing flipped around. We're going to duplicate it too, so that way we get just one side to show up. So I'm going to come over here. I'm going to go for rotate X here, and we're going to try, let's try -90 in here and see how it flips for us. So it does. So I do have to do 90 instead. The way I'm figuring this out is down here. We move this over. Yeah, just move it over here. Yeah, we can move it over here. I feel like this area is not too bad to get covered up in Maya. There we go. So it's going to be in the bottom right hand corner. But yeah, so you can see over here with your little compass, okay, that the X is what we want to rotate it, right? If you're ever unsure on how you want to rotate, you can just get the rotate tool out and then just choose the axes you want to rotate. Then look in your channel box and see what number is changing. Then you'll know, oh, okay, I want to change that number. All right, so we got this rotated correctly. So now we're looking down on it. Okay, I'm going to duplicate it now. So we're going to hit Control, hold down Control or Command if you're on a Mac, and then hit D. D is in Delta. and this will duplicate it. You can see right over here, we got our duplication. It duplicates it right on top of the original. So, it might not look like we duplicated, but if we look over here in the outliner, we can actually see we duplicated. So I'm going to hit the W key to go to our move tool, and I'm going to push this one back. And then I'm going to, rotate it. Let's see, we're going to get it back on its side. So we'll make X go back to 0. And then I need the Y here to rotate around. So we're going to do 180 degrees for Y. There we go. Now it's right side up. And you can see I can kind of put it in here somewhere. Or we're going to adjust where we want this later on. For now, we're just going to have it just like that. And then we'll come over down to this one over here. We're going to push that one down. Okay, now we're going to crop these a little bit so that way we don't have the extra image in there. Oh, you know what? I should rotate this real quick. So I'm going to rotate Z, I think, 180 degrees. There we go. Now it's oriented the same way as our other reference. And also up here in the channel box, let's name our references. So this is going to be ref underscore top underscore 1. Always number your polys. It's going to make life a lot easier for you in the long run. Then for plane 2, same thing. We'll do ref underscore side underscore 1. There we go. All right, so we're almost there. Now we're going to add in an edge loop. So we're going to go up here to Mesh Tools and select Insert Edge Loop. Okay, then we're going to come over to our poly, and we're just going to we're going to click and hold on the edge. We're going to select it first, then we can click and hold on the edge. While we're holding, we can move that edge around, as you can see. So I'm going to put it right about there. Okay, so that one's done, and then I'll come over to here to this one, and then this one will go, again, select it first, click once to select it, then we'll click and hold our mouse down so we can add in that edge loop. Bada bing, bada boom. Now we'll hit the Q key to get out of the edge loop tool. You want to make sure you do that, and then we'll go into face mode. We'll hold down our right mouse key, drag down to face, let go of our mouse key, and now I'm going to select this top one and delete that. So now I've got that cropped. And now same thing for our top image. I'm going to select the face for the for that side part, and then hit the backspace or delete key. And now I've got these cropped down to the sizes that I want. Okay, we'll go back to object mode. Now I'm going to create a cube. So up here, up on the poly modeling shelf, I'm going to click on the cube. So we can start off with a basic cube. Now the best way to do this, let me hit my F key to focus it on our poly here. So now it's the center point. All right. And so now the key to this is using the orthographic views. Sorry for that little pop-up there. There we go. The key to this is using our orthographic views, the 2D views. To get into those views, we're going to just tap our spacebar so that we go in this 4-panel view. We're going to hover our mouse over the view we want to work with. So I'm going to work with this one right here for top, and then I'm going to hit my spacebar to go into it. Again, every viewport, every view, you have to hit that 6 key to turn on the textures. All right. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to line up my drawing. So I'll hit the W key, get my move tool out, and I'm going to move my drawing, my reference, so that way it's centered up with the center of my grid and the new piece of poly that I just created, just like so. Okay. And you can also, if you want to, move your pivot point so it's in the center as well of the drawing. In order to do that, we're going to hold down the D key, and now we can use our arrows to move, or I can use the middle square, hold that down, and go, all right, boop. There we go. We're centered pretty good. You can also hold on, while you're holding down D, hold down the X key too, and that will snap it to the grid. So if you want to get it right in the very center, that's how you can do that for that. Okay, so now we've got our reference to the size we want. We're going to ignore the grid. In fact, I'm going to turn the grid off. I think that's going to make things a lot easier because you won't have all these lines here. To turn off your grid, that's going to be over up here in the taskbar for the viewport. You'll see this little boxed, looks like an Excel table right up here. If we click that, that will turn off our grid. That'll make life a lot easier for us for this particular project. We don't really need the grid. Okay, so yeah, now we can start pushing polys. So I'm going to select my polygon. All right, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go into vertex mode. So I'm going to hold on my right mouse button, drag over to vertex, and now I'm going to drag select because I want to select both the top and bottom. Because remember, we're in 3D here. So there's a vert right underneath this vert that we are looking at. And I want to select both of them. In fact, I want to select all of them on this side. So that's why I do a drag select out like that. And now I can pull that whole thing over. And what we're doing now is called blocking out. So I'm going to use the inside of the line. That's the other thing too. You should probably make most of your drawing, if you're making your own drawing, try to make the lines as thin as possible so that way you can get your measurements down correct. You don't have a thick line to go, do I go on the outside or the inside or right in the middle of the line? So for this project, we're going to do on the inside of the line, and then we'll do the other side too, drag select out, push it over here. Cool. There we go. If you need more finesse with your controls, remember you got the plus and minus keys on your keyboard, which is right next to the backspace delete key. And you can use those to change the size. If you make it really big, you really get to fine tune. You get a lot more control over it. Now I'm going to come over here and do the top ones, drag that up. There we go. And then also for the bottoms. Okay, there we go. All right. Now, you might see too that these need to be beveled. We'll be doing that later on in the project. Okay, next step. We got this blocked out now, but we can't see our drawing underneath. Let me go back to object mode. So I'm going to hold on my right mouse button, go to object mode. Now, if I want to make this so it's translucent, so I can see my drawing underneath, I can actually make the poly translucent. To do that, I'm going to come over here to the side and select my attribute editor. Okay. Then up here at the top for the tabs, we got a little arrow thing over here. So that way we can move over in the tabs because there's too many tabs to show in the attribute editor. The one to the very, very right, the tab to the very, very right, that's going to be your material tab for that poly. Okay. For this subsurface one, that's the default here for Maya, we're going to actually come down here to where it says transmission and click on the little arrow next to it. And then for weight right here, we're going to click on that and just slide that slider up to about, I want to say like about 0.4 or so, just so you can see the drawing underneath it. Boom, now we're good to go. Next thing we got to do is line up our side reference so it matches with our poly, and then we can push our polys for that side view. So I'm going to switch my views to the side view here. So we've got a front view. Looks like I need to switch that around. So if you want to switch the camera around in orthographic view, you just have to hold down the space bar. Okay, you'll see the name Maya right in the middle of the selections here. We're going to click and hold on that. And then we're going to choose, I'm going to choose back view. You might not have to do this, okay? Your front view might be just fine, but as you can see, my poly's black, so I'm seeing the back of the face, which we don't want. So I'll let go of my mouse. Boom. Again, I got to hit that 6 key so my texture shows up. And now I can line up my drawing to the poly. Because remember, this poly's already sized up to the drawing, our top drawing. So we want the length to equal, oops, let me undo that. we want the length of this one to match the length uh, of the other one. And actually, as you can see, as I put it right in here and try to feather it in, it fits perfectly, which it should, because our drawing is the same. It's the same drawing, just, from a different view. And we have a little bit of extra at the end there. We're going to ignore that. Okay, close enough, at least for this kind of drawing. And yeah, my one line diagram, I don't think I had it super accurate. I don't think these lined up with the top drawing very well. I should have done a little better with that. Now I gotta push my poly. So again, I'm gonna come over here, click my polygon, right click and hold, and then choose vertex. Then I'm gonna again select the top ones. This time I'm gonna push these down to line up with my drawing. And then I'll do the same for the bottom ones. And there we go, put it right about there. So now we're good. Now we're a good portion of the way through. We've got the base of our object here made. Now we got to just, create all this stuff here. So we're going to go back into top view. So I'll click my space bar, hover my mouse over the top view, click my space bar again. All right, so here we go. Let me just bring down my volume. You might have to turn your volume up a little, or turn up a little bit if you had to turn down. I'm going to bring down my levels a little bit there so I'm not blasted in your ear. All right, so now we have to add some edge loops in so that way we can extrude these surface features here. So we're going to be making 1, 2. Let me hit my Q key to get the move tool out of the way there. There we go. And so, so you can see we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the size of the handles too. So 5 and 6. So we're going to make 4 vertical edge loops and 2 horizontal. So let's go ahead and get out our insert edge loop tool. That's going to be under mesh tools, right about in the middle right there. There's our insert edge loop tool. Remember, if you ever want to put these onto your shelf, so that way you can get to them real quickly and easily, when you have it in the drop-down menu here, if you hold down Control Command and then Shift and then click on it, click on the Insert Edge Loop, boom. Now you can see it's up here in my shelf. So now I can click it up here. And this is a common tool to use, is the Insert Edge Loop tool. So it's definitely one I would suggest putting it up here on your shelf. All right, so now I'm going to select the poly. I'll do my 2 horizontal first. So I'm going to click and hold here and get it right on the line. Okay, then I'll do the same thing over here. I'm going to click and hold my mouse on the edge and then drag it until I get that line right on top of my drawings line. Then let go. There we go. We're moving along. Then we'll do these ones over here. So this one here, this one here. There we go. And then for the sides of our handles. So I'll do the inside of that. There we go. And there we go. All right, so now we got our edge loops put in. I'm gonna hit my Q key to finish out my insert edge loop tool so I don't accidentally add a whole bunch more edge loops. Okay, now I want to go to face mode because I want to select the faces I want to extrude. Okay, so I'm going to click and hold my right mouse button, drag down to face, and then let go. And now I'm going to choose these faces. It's going to basically make a cross here. So I'm going to click on this one, hold down my shift key. Okay, and then select this one, and then over here, this one, this one, this one, and this one. Okay, so now I've got that. All right, I'm ready to extrude. Before I extrude, though, I'm going to switch back to my side view so that way I can see how far up I need to pull these guys up. So I'll click my space bar, hover over the side view, and then click my space bar again. Okay, now I'll come up here to the extrude button. This is our extrude button right up here. Click that bad boy, and now I'm in extrude mode. Let me lower the size of that tool there. There we go. And I'm going to lift it up to be just right here, right where these support arches meet up with the handle. Okay. I'm ignoring this part of the drawing, the very bottom part of the handle right there. Okay. I want this to go all the way up to right about there. Okay, now if I go into perspective mode, which is the next step I want to do here, click my space bar over perspective 3D mode. Okay, now my food maker looks like this, but you can see we have those supports coming down to the edge. So what we're going to do, let me hit my Q key to get out of the extrude tool. Okay, I need to weld the verts. So I'm going to weld these two verts up here to these verts down here. So we're going to use the target weld tool. That's going to be this guy right up here. Remember, if you're ever unsure, all you got to do is hover your mouse over the icon on your shelf, and it'll tell you what that tool is. So yep, that's our target weld tool. We'll click on that. It's going to automatically put us into vertex mode. Now I'm going to click on the vert I want to move and glue to another vert. So I'll click this guy. I'm holding down my left mouse button after I'm clicking down and holding it, and I'm dragging down to the vert I want it to move to and combine with. So you can see I got that orange line dragging down to the other vert. I'll let go of my left mouse button. Boom. Those two are now one vert right there. Okay. So we're going to go around the whole model and do that for all the other verts. So you want to be really careful here too. Zoom in if you need to. All right. And then we're going to click, hold, boom. Then I'll pan around and I'll get these guys on the side here. Do, boop, do, do. Same thing over here. Do, 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 do. Sorry for this sound effects. It's just what I do. All right. So, yep. There we go. And there we go. So now, man, we're almost done. Look at that. We're like 2/3 of the way there. Now we just have to create our handle. Okay, so same thing here. We're going to hit the Q key so we get out of the target weld tool. We're going to click and hold our right mouse button and go to face mode. And then this time I'm just going to select these three faces at the top. So I'll select this one here, hold down shift, and select these other two. Okay, so now you can see, let me hit my F key so we can focus in on that. And boom. We're ready to go. So we're going to go back into our side mode so we know how much to pull this up for our handle. So we'll click our space bar. Then we'll cover our mouse over the side view and then click our space bar again. All right. So remember, our faces up there are already selected. So now we can hit extrude. And then pull these suckers up all the way up to where we want our handle to end. Remember, I'm going for the inside of the line. There we go. And here's an issue. Let me hit the Q key to get out of there. Like this doesn't quite line up. So if this happens to you, all you got to simply do is go to vertex mode and drag select all these verts out, get my move tool, and now I can move them over to be in the right spot there. Same thing with these two. I got like a little sliver of white right there. Just drag select. Bada boom, bada bing. I'm ready to go. Next thing is we got to put a hole through this for our handle part. So that should be pretty easy. So click my space bar to go in perspective mode here. There we go. And now we're going to create a new cube. Okay, so we're going to right click, go to object mode. Okay, we'll come up here and we'll click on the cube. Okay, it's inside of our model right now. This is why usually, most of the time when I'm modeling freehand, I don't use the middle here. I'll model off to the side. Okay, but yeah, and yeah, our grid came back. Let's see if we can turn that off again. I don't want to brought our grid back. So yeah, I'm going to bring this, I'm just going to lift it up to like right about there. So we're going to do a Boolean cut. So I'm going to shape this out to be basically the size of this little cylinder right in the middle right there. Or sorry, not cylinder, but this little hole in the middle right there. So yeah, so I'm going to actually kind of put it right there, go back into my side view. Okay. And yep, I'm going to get it all lined up. Okay. Also too, before I start pushing and pulling the polys, let me go back into my perspective mode, and I want to use my scale tool and scale it, stretch it out like that. So that way it's going out either side of my object here. So that way it makes a hole that goes all the way through. This will also make it easier for us to select the verts to move them around to get this thing sized up correctly. Now I'll go back into my side mode. Okay, we'll go to vertex mode and we'll push our polys. Hit W for my move tool, drag this over here, drag select, drag it over. There we go. And then I'll do the same for the top ones. Boop. And boom. All right, now I need to bevel my my edges so that way I can get that roundness in there. So that way I don't have to bevel it later on. Like it'll be automatically beveled just from the cut. So in order to do that, we'll go back to our perspective mode. There we go. And what we're going to do is we're going to select these 4 edges here. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we'll go to edge mode, hold on our right mouse button, go over to edge over here. Then we're going to drag select out just like that. We're going to go back into our side view. So click our space bar, hover our mouse over the side view, click our space bar. And then right here on the shelf, this is our bevel tool. I believe you can also find it under mesh, right? Nope, edit mesh. Yeah, there we go. We're right there, second one down. Okay, but it's handy dandy right on our shelf by default. So we'll click it right here. All right, now you'll see here, we want to really zoom in on one of our corners, just one of them. We don't have to look at all of them, just one of them. And you can see my drawing is just a little off. Yeah, I really thought I got those in the right spot too. Let's move it on. So probably undo real quick. I'm going to hit the Z key to undo. And then, I should have been zoomed in when I was sizing this up. You should always zoom in really close so you can really see things. Let me go back to vertex mode. I'm just going to get these. I want to get them in the right spot. There we go. Same thing for the bottom ones here. It goes to show the devil's in the details. You really got to zoom in for some parts in here. Okay. That way you can really see what the edge is. Also, too, like a drawing like this, like I did 72 PPI, which is really too low for a project like this. You should do like 150 PPI or up to 300 for your drawings. That way, when you really zoom in like this, because you can see how far we're actually off, look how furry and fuzzy that gets, right? So if we increase the resolution in Photoshop so to have more pixels per square inch, then we wouldn't have that issue. Okay. This is just for a lesson, so I'm not going to be like super accurate with this, but we can fix it and fix this in a little bit anyways. But yeah, my cube here is in the correct spot now. So now I can go back into edge mode. Okay. This thing's got memory too. Okay. Remember, we already select those 4 edges. Even though we went into vertex mode and select vertexes, when we go back to edge mode, it'll remember what we had selected before. Okay. Smart people do make this program, so it helps out. So yeah, so I'm going to go back to my side. Okay. And again, I'm going to really zoom in on one of these corners so I can get my bevel just right. And I'll come up here, click on my bevel tool. There we go. Now I'm going to change the fraction. Notice how I'm hovering over the word, and then I can click on it and hold my left mouse button on it, drag left or right, so that way I can change that number. And I want my vertex to start right. I want them to go right where it's the edge there starts to curve for the bevel. It's like right about there, right? Like it's straight, 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 and then this is where it starts to curve. So we want these verts to end up right where the curve begins on either side of it. All right, now comes the easy part. We just come over here to segments. The more segments, the rounder it gets. So let's go to the max. Why not? So we're going to click and hold our left mouse button on segments and then drag to the right and to the max number, and boom. Look how nice and round that bevel is. It's perfect. And I made this bevel too in Photoshop using the shape tool. So I didn't have to actually like hand make any of like a lot of this. This was all vertex. These are all smart objects in Photoshop that I used to create this whole thing. So, I'm just clicking my mouse and dragging things around. There's really no drawing involved at all in this. Okay. All right. So back to this. We'll right click and go to object mode. We'll then go to our perspective mode so that we can do our Boolean difference here. Okay. And so we're going to first select on our model that we want to cut into, our original. Then we'll hold down our shift key and then select what we want to, the poly we want to cut with. So we'll select that one. So your original model should be white right now, and what you're cutting with should be green. Then we're going to come up here to our Boolean difference. Remember, it's also under mesh, the very top one here, difference A minus B. Okay, but we'll click on the shelf up here and click on that bad boy, and boom, we've got a hole in this thing now. Okay, and remember, when you do a Boolean difference, I can actually still move my my cut around. It's this red wireframe. Okay, but when you're done, you really want to get rid of it. So that way you don't mess Maya up. You're going to really confuse Maya if you keep this around. So to clear it out, you're like, all right, my hole's where I want it, and I want to keep it there. You're going to go up here to edit, delete all by type, and then choose history. And this is something you want to do every so often to your model anyways, because that history starts to build up here in the channel box, and it really has nothing to do with us. Like, it doesn't have anything to do with our history. Okay, that's a separate memory function of Maya. This is like history for like actions that were done to this particular piece of poly. And when that information starts getting overloaded, the piece of poly will start messing up. So it's good to clear out your history every so often. But yep, now I've got that. Now all I got to do is bevel all my other edges. Okay. Well, yeah, let's go ahead and do those all at once for this top object here. So we're going to go to edge mode. And then I'm going to come around and I'm going to do it separate from the handle right here with the rest of it. Okay. So that way, because I got to come in here and select all of these, and I won't do it necessarily for this lesson here, but you'd have to actually come in here because, we got all these segments in here. So we got to make sure we get every single one of those little tiny edges selected to do our bevel. That's why we want to do it separate, because it will actually affect our other edges that aren't as restricted as these guys over here. So that's why we're going to do it separate. So I'm going to click on that edge, hold down shift, and then just go around and select all of my outside edges that I want to round out. Okay, get these guys here. Basically anywhere we don't, when we 3D print this, edges are very sharp on 3D prints. So we want these to just be really nice. So somebody doesn't cut themselves on the edge. All right. So I think we got all of them. Oh, we got to do the bottoms too. So Let's go ahead and do that. Gotta be really careful doing this, even when you're done, make sure you're just dragging around and inspecting it to make sure you didn't accidentally select an edge you don't want to bevel. Like we don't want to select any of these edges in the middle here because that will just really mess up our bevel function. Go get that guy there and that guy there, and then these last three there. All right, so let's do a final inspection. Just make sure we got all of our edges that will be on the outside that we want to round out. And yeah, let's go ahead and go to our side view. So that way we'll go to this corner over here. That's good. Yeah, this one's good right here. And we'll create our bevel. So we'll click on our bevel tool. Okay, now something like that happens where it turns neon green. It just means that the material has accidentally detached from the poly, which is not a big deal. We can fix it, but first let's get our bevels down. It's really not detrimental, and it's pretty easy to fix. Okay, so over here, we're going to select fraction. And remember, we want to get that guy to be right at the beginning of where those curves are. We could really zoom in on here too. So this is what I should have modeled, or at least start super zoomed in. And say right about there. It's a little off, but it's good enough. Then add in our segments. Ooh, look how round that is. We'll go back into our perspective mode. And bada boom, bada bing. We got some nice round edges. Oh, look at that. Let me undo. I did forget an edge right there. Didn't even notice that. So I'm going to undo. There we go. Hold down shifts and select that guy. And then again, I will bevel. Let's go to our side mode right here. And we'll adjust it to right about there. And then add in our segments. Yeah, we should be good now. And it looks good. All right, now I'm going to go back to object mode, and we're going to reattach that material to our poly. So that way we don't have this bright neon green here. So we're going to right click and hold and drag down to assign existing material, the one at the very bottom. And then we want to choose this one right here, the standard surface 1, right there at the bottom. Boom. Now we're good to go. Look at that. All right. Last thing we got to do is make the little marker part down here at the bottom, this part over here. Okay. So for that, we're going to start off with a cylinder. Boop. Okay. And I want to round off the caps. I want them to be round. Okay. So again, over here in the channel box under inputs, polycylinder 1, we'll click on that polycylinder 1 name right there. Let's add a few more subdivisions. As long as we keep this an even number for the subdivision axes, we'll have this edge going right down the very center here. If you make it an odd number, then we won't have one in the center. It's just how it is. It's math. But yeah, so we want to keep that in the center. So as long as we keep the subdivisions 20 right here, right, we can increase this number. As long as we increase it to an even number, we should be good to go. So I'm going to come here and click. Remember, more edges you make, I want to do 26. My lucky number. But here we go. More edges that you make, the more rounder it is. And with 3D printing, if you don't have a lot of segments to make it round, you're going to see those flat spots for sure. You're going to see them hardcore. It's a little bit, it doesn't look quite like it here in Maya, but yeah, like these are all flat spots. So more divisions you make, the more you'll have in the middle. Okay. And it looks like, you know what? I do have to go up another one here. Let's go to 30. Then I know we should add one in the middle. Nope. Here we go, 32. 32. Now I've got an edge going right down that middle. It's probably something like prime numbers or something. I don't know. If I think about it long enough, I could figure it out, which numbers work and which numbers don't. But yeah, anyways, so now we got this in the right spot. Okay, now we need to side. Oh, first we need to round off our caps. So over here in the channel box, I'm just going to drag this down a little bit so we can see a little bit more. Okay, and you can see right here it says round cap. We're going to click in here. This is binary. So if we want to turn it to on, we're going to use 1. If you want to turn it off, you put a 0 in there. Okay, so we're going to do 1, hit enter. Boom, look at that. We already have a cone. But we need to add subdivisions, right? In order to round that puppy out. So we're going to come over here for cap subdivisions. Okay, and just, you can get it. You can take whatever number you want it to. I'm going to do 16. Feel like that's good. Now we got a nice pill shape. Now we can start shaping this guy out. Okay, and this can be pretty easy. Nothing technical here, right? So we're going to click over into our side view. I'll hit my F key, focus in on it. Okay, and then I'll take my move tool, and now I got to move this guy, and I want to get it in the center, so I can just hold on the D key, or sorry, not the D key, hold on the X key, and boom, look at that. Now I'm really in the center, but I want to center it up with this little points that I have right there. So I line up my middle edge. See that middle edge going right down the center with that little point right there? And then get this to be like right about there, right on that edge there. And then I'll switch to my scale tool. So I'll hit the R key and I'll scale it down first so I can get it to about the same size. There we go, right about there. And then I'm just going to squish it. I'm going to take my Z axes and I'm going to squish it down like that. Whomp. There we go. Look at that. We got the shape. Okay. And then I just got to do the point here. But first, let's go back to our perspective mode so we can get a good look at this thing. Okay. And it's not going all the way to the edges. Now, you might want to do something like this, where you just stretch it. But notice our caps also get stretched and distorted. We don't want to do that. We want our middle part here to be as maximum coverage as possible. These round things the round ends are just for looks, right? So the way we can do this so we don't distort it is by going into vertex mode. Then I'm going to drag select this side, right? Change to my move tool, and drag all these verts to right about there. Then do the same thing for the other side. So you can see I can change the size of my object, lengthen it out without distorting it by just simply moving the verts, right? There's no verts in the middle. That's the part I want to be the longest anyways. So now I've maintained the roundness on my caps, and I'm ready to go into edge mode. Select this edge that's right in the middle right there. Or nope, it's not the right one. There we go. That's the right one. We'll go back into our side view, and then we're just going to pull down just like so. Okay. Now we've got it. We've got this food marker. Okay. I can right click, go to object mode. Same thing let me just click in an empty space to deselect. Then over here for this guy, I'll put this guy back into object mode as well. And now for this would be used to mark a loaf of raw dog food, like raw beef. So that way you can like perfectly measure out the right amount of dog food, the right amount of serving for your dog. So I would actually just duplicate these. So I do Control Command D and move those around and get them all spaced out to where they would be marked for the perfect size to cut out for your dog to serve for them. So that's what this object was. But yeah, that's pretty much the end of this. I would just duplicate these and just, have them all out here. This thing would be ready for 3D printing. And yeah, You can make your prototype or whatever for it. Also, one thing we forgot to do over here is to name all of our poly. Oh, always get in the habit of doing that. This is a simple project, but if you had like a whole scene and you only had like generic names, you wouldn't be able to figure out where anything's at. Okay, so get in the habit of doing that. Also, too, we didn't save it all during this project, too. We only saved at the very beginning. So remember, always hit Control Command S to save. Save often. Save all the time. Please save. It'll stop you from crying in the future. All right. If you have any other questions, feel free to shoot me an email. Let me know if you need any further help or anything. But yep, that should be the end of this lesson. I hope you enjoyed it. Have a great day.